Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us today. My name is Lenny. This is my lovely partner.
Jasmine.
And we are the professional development team from Studio 510. I've been in the field 21 years, working at a myriad of different schools, different districts. This is my first year outside the classroom. This year, I primarily work with a lot of adults. I go to different schools, engage with the principals, the teachers, and trust me, I mean, I know you guys are teachers, but I enjoy hanging out with the adults way more than the kids. I think my time with the students is over.
I have not been in the field for 21 years, but I have been working with kids since I was about 18, 19. Then once I finished college, transitioned into education, where I was teaching for about 3-ish years, and then switched over to Studio 510, where now I'm doing lead professional development as well as restorative justice facilitation at Ford Elementary. That's a little bit about us.
Yep. So as you know, we are in the classroom a lot. Kids can really push our buttons. So quick icebreaker. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to think about it, and then we'll go around and share. When heated in the moment, how do you calm yourself down? Once again, the question is, when you are heated in the moment, how do you calm yourself down? 2 minutes, and then we'll regroup. So the question was, when heated in the moment, how do you calm yourself down? For myself, if I can't take a quick 2 to 3 minute walk outside, I try to take a deep breath. I always remind myself that regardless of the situation, it's not personal. And if any other teacher were in my shoes at the moment, they'd probably get the same treatment. So I try to take deep breaths, remind myself it's not personal. But if I have a chance to step out and walk, I take a walk. Jess?
Yeah, same for me. I think I always try to remind myself that it's not personal. Whatever I'm feeling, I kind of just talk to myself in my head. And I try, and sometimes I even clench my fist in the back, depending on how angry I'm feeling, and then release, because it kind of, when I release, it feels kind of relaxing in my body. And it's not something that they can see in front of me if they're in front of me. And then just taking deep breaths, just telling myself, like, it's okay. It's just the heat of the moment. And it's, it's temporary, whatever is going on. And just most importantly, just not taking it personal. We don't know what people go through in their personal lives, what, got them to be in that position in the first place. So I really just kind of make it more about, generalize it. It's not me, it's not them. It's just, unfortunate situation, but trying not to take it personal.
All right. Any volunteers in this brave audience? All right.
If we're talking about in the classroom, I like to, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or frustrated because there's so many things happening and no one's listening, I will also take a deep breath, but I like to close my eyes for a second. And I will make it a very physical gesture because I also want to express to the students that I want very obvious body language what I'm going through. And I will even say, I'm hoping you notice that right now I'm not in a good space, but I'm resetting. And I just think about if I open my eyes, I'm going to go back to taking control of the situation and feel calmer knowing what to do, being able to actually use the tools that I have now that I'm not all scatterbrained anymore. And so I like to make it physical. I like to be verbal about it. And I like to just try to reset.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. I saw a hand in the back.
Yeah, I just remind myself, first of all, being in a situation with kids with this age, it's not about power struggle. It's not about power struggle. It is about who kids are, how they behave. And I just, like I said, to calm myself, I pray and I send them positive energy. And just pray in my mind, calm down, it's okay, things will be okay. So just to irradiate positive energy, and it works.
That's really good. I like how you said the magic word power struggle. You must have seen this slide presentation before. Any other brave souls would like to answer the question? We'll take 1 or 2 more. Don't be shy. We can all learn. Oh, here we go.
Similar, I take a breath. I usually my physical description, if they see me going like this, my hands next to my head, they know I want to explode. And I take a breath and I walk away from wherever I'm at in the room, and breathe.
Very good. Hopefully you don't do that during this presentation. Was that you with the hand up? All right.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm heated, I kind of get in this mindset of it's me versus a class, where it's the class is made up of people, and if I can have just personal, a moment of personal connection with another person, and so I try and step away from the class as a whole and just talk to students individually on a more personal level.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Thanks everyone for sharing. So what we learned real quick during our icebreaker is that everyone has a certain way to calm themselves down in a heated moment, and no one had a wrong answer. So that just shows you that although everyone didn't speak out, I'm sure everyone has something similar or something different. So what is de-escalation? Without looking at the definitions, who just wants to take a crack at it real quick? What's de-escalation in your words? Anybody? Yes.
Taking a heated situation and taking different steps to bring that situation down to a more calming environment.
Very good. If this was family food, that'd be the number one answer. So, de-escalation, definitions. Techniques used to reduce tension or prevent conflicts from escalating. It also aims to maintain a calm, productive classroom environment. It focuses on addressing emotional and behavioral triggers. So, in short, if two kids start a conflict in class, the worst thing to do is say, hey, this is not important, sit down. The worst thing we can do. It's always cool to take these steps and approaches, and we're going to dive a little bit into that to see how we can do that. So, the importance of de-escalation in the classroom. This is why de-escalation matters. Believe it or not, there's some teachers out there that think it doesn't work, but this is why it's important. Number one, it prevents disruptive behavior from escalating into conflicts. It ensures a safe learning environment for students and staff. It reduces stress and anxiety for students in heightened emotional states, and it maintains the overall focus on learning. There's no better way to explain that. It's very important that de-escalation practices and strategies are something that we all try to learn, try to, incorporate in our classrooms, and be mindful of moving forward for conflict.
All right, so why staying calm matters. So staying calm during a disruption prevents the situation from escalating and sets a positive example for students. Your reaction directly influences how students will respond and can help de-escalate the issue quickly. So an example, a student interrupts the class with off-topic comments. Instead of reacting with frustration, the teacher calmly asks them to save their thoughts for later and redirects the focus back to the lesson. So a lot of kids, you'll notice that they don't like to be called out in front of everyone, right? So a lot of staying calm is really important, and a lot of the students will actually mirror your behavior, right? So if you are able to stay calm, I think you mentioned that you show your body language to the students, it also helps them see that you're able to control yourself in a situation that's getting a little bit frustrating for yourself. So then they can take that, see that, and then learn for it themselves, and they'll want to mirror that in the future as well.
All right, early signs of escalation. So we're gonna go over 4 of them. Maybe you've seen them before in the classroom, maybe you haven't. This may be new, this may not be new. So, recognizing escalation. Number 1, restlessness or fidgeting. Number 2, increased volume or intensity in voice. Number 3, aggressive body language. That could be clenching fists, that could be pacing, that could be that one kid that you keep telling to sit down because they keep getting up from their chair. Number 4, withdrawal or refusal to communicate. So just by raise of hands, how many of you guys have seen any of these or all of these in your classroom on a daily basis or at least once before?
Today.
All right, today.
Today.
Okay, I'm gonna remember that during parent share, but to see what happened. So this happens all the time. Now, usually most of us have rapport with our students, so we know, for example, when the restlessness or fidgeting is really a sign of escalation, or maybe that's just a student who does that regularly. But it's always good to make sure that we have a rapport with our students so we can identify these triggers early.
All right, understanding common types of classroom disruptions. Disruptions can take many forms, from off-topic talking and fidgeting to more severe behaviors like disrespectful comments to defiance. Understanding the types of disruptions helps teacher prepare appropriate responses. So we have mild, a student tapping their pencil repeatedly. Moderate, side conversations during a group discussion. Severe, a student openly arguing with the teacher. So it's also very important to identify the differences. So for example, if I was teaching and I see a student kind of tapping their pencil repeatedly, maybe that would be something that would kind of maybe walk over to the student and maybe kind of tap their desk to indirectly tell them, hey, you're fidgeting right now. I kind of need you to knock it off for a second. Without verbally always telling them, so they also don't feel like they were put on the spot. And sometimes a lot of kids maybe might not even realizing that they're tapping their pencil, and it's just kind of something that they naturally do. Moderate, so we have side conversations during a group discussion. That can be when you are having a discussion in class or you are delivering a lesson and students are just openly talking, I think that would be an appropriate way to be like, hey, redirect them back to the conversation that we're having, and tell them that their conversation can kind of simply be saved for later. Severe, a student openly arguing with the teacher. I definitely have experience going back and forth with a student, and you realize that you're never going to win, right? So just being stern and assertive is also very important. And if the problem is really serious, maybe just, kind of shutting it down in the moment, but making sure you're saving space to check in with them about it later in a more private setting, so you don't further escalate any situations happening within the classroom.
And what you said about power struggle goes back to what you said about power struggle. Remember, we're never going to win. So we'll save energy. We're going to save energy. All right. I love that everyone's in a group. So this is group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4 back there, 5, and 6. So what I would like you guys to do is talk about the scenario. Has there been a time where you de-escalated a situation in your classroom? What worked? What didn't work? What is something that you can implement the next time a situation arises in the classroom? Now, I put the S there to see if everyone's paying attention. I misspelled that on purpose. So, has there been a time where you de-escalated a situation in the classroom? What worked and what didn't work? What is something that you can implement the next time a situation arises in the classroom? I'll give you guys 5 minutes to discuss with your groups, and then we'll regroup, go over some answers, and talk about it. So, before I pick a group to start, I would like to acknowledge that everybody participated to the max. That was the first time we have to be like, stop, you guys were going back. So that's good. I love the participation. I wish I had prizes and snacks, but I don't. But 2 thumbs up. So, which bold group would like to start first? Or shall we go in order?
Just share an experience that you might have talked about. You can share something that you spoke about yourself, or if you want to share someone in your table, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Wait.
That was a tie, but tie goes to the runner.
Okay.
Yep.
I recently had a situation where there were 3 students and one of them was not respecting another student's pronouns. And 2 girls were getting frustrated with him and it was starting to escalate. So I decided to step in and we just created we turned it into a conversation. And then we were able to hear both sides of the conversation, give examples and be like, hey, this is what this person is thinking and feeling. I understand what you are thinking and feeling right now. You have to change your mindset, but we want to respect you. And creating the conversation and turning it away from an argument really helped de-escalate that. And I felt lucky enough that it was in a moment in my class where everyone else was busy, so I could take the time to do that, because it can be very hard to do a whole separate thing while your class is sitting and waiting for you because they won't wait for you.
Right.
But being able to, make it a conversation.
That's good. I'm curious, how long ago was that and how has it been since that?
This was last week,
Uh-huh.
and there hasn't been any other problems since.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, it was just the person. Now he made an honest mistake, but he was having issues moving on from the mistake and got very defensive. And I'm sure it's because he felt embarrassed. And so obviously didn't want to put him on the spot or call him out, because that's very different than someone bullying actively or teasing. And so it's like, hey, this is a learning experience. This is a hard transition for this student to change their mindset and accept the pronouns that he misunderstood. And so let's move on together. This isn't just you alone in this air quotes embarrassing situation. It's all of us together dealing with it.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
That was really good. And I have one more question because your scenario is really good.
Sure.
So you mentioned that fortunately kids were busy doing work, so you had an easy window to slide into. What would it look like if everybody was focused and you were in the middle of like a lesson, for example?
So if I was in the middle of a lesson and then had to deal with something.
Yeah, like you heard it while you were like
No,
teaching.
totally. In that moment, I would probably have the students start working on whatever I was talking about at whatever point, like get started on this that I've said, we'll move on to the next part. When I get back, I would probably pull that student aside and then have a calm conversation to get their side and make sure they felt listened to.
Okay.
And then say, I hear you, because I always start students like, tell me your side. And then now I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing on my side. And let's compare notes.
Okay.
So we start that conversation and making sure they at least understand what's happening. And then I would check in later on with the other students who were feeling wronged. So it'd be like, hey, I talked to him. This is what we discussed. And then if everyone felt okay, we would move on. And then the next day I would do a check-in. If things still felt out of whack, I would then at the end of class bring us all together as a group and have a a version of what I was saying originally of like a group conversation.
Okay.
Just about, hey, this is what I heard from him. This is what they're feeling. Let's mix this together so we can move forward in a positive way.
Okay.
So
That was really good. You might have to come stand up here with us.
Yeah, I think having a space, having a space for the conversation to be had, I think is also very important. Perception, and just really understanding both sides and what they're feeling in the moment is really, really important when dealing with situations like that. So that was actually a really good way of dealing with it.
All right. I don't want to pick on you, but I saw your hand shoot up too. So would you still like to share, please?
Not a specific situation, but a part of our conversation was it really depends on the student and the moment in that time, because you can't address every student with the exact same technique, and it depends on your relationship with that student. Like for instance, earlier you said if a student is constantly, you might have a student where you can tap a desk and just walk by like, hey, that's, or I've had students where I've had to tell they're not in a good mood, and I'm like, okay, let's step out and I check in with them one-on-one, or something to that degree. But it really depends on the student, the relationship, on how you can de-escalate a situation. Because I know we have some students that respond better to, like, if the student is worked up and ready to fight, and certain teachers, if they see their face, they automatically gonna stop. And then there's other teachers where it's like, I'm not allowing you to guide or direct me in any way. So it really depends on your relationship with that student and where you stand with that student. Because every staff in the school cannot approach and address that student in the same way that staff could that has a strong standing relationship with that student.
Okay, very well said. You must have came to our relationship building PD, huh?
And I think in those situations, I think it's it's very true that our relationships with students are very different. But I think at least like when we come in those situations where I've had students where I'm like, I don't have the best relationship with them, so I know I'm probably not the person to de-escalate this, but at least giving them a space to be like, hey, can I listen? Right? Because sometimes they just want to let it out. So I might not be the person to help you, but I can listen. And like, I'll tell them, hey, who do you need right now? If they're not available, I'm here to listen. And just giving them the space to at least listen. So I think that's also very important to note that it's okay, we're not going to build like great rapport with every student, but at least just giving them a space to, let it out, and just for us being able to listen to them, I think is also very important.
Good point. Another brave group.
Yeah.
All right.
I was teaching a math class years ago, and I was losing them, and they started shouting across the two students started shouting across the classroom, and then other people got involved, and I was trying to get them to calm down and get the class, and then everybody's riled up, and so I started yelling at the class, matching their energy, and it just kept getting heated, and I wasn't able to control them. I was losing all sense of, obviously I lost the focus, but also I felt like I lost the class at that point. And I would just get agitated. I was about to flip out and cuss somebody out, start throwing things. And I remember just like sitting down, just like I'm standing up and I'm just agitated, and I ended up just sitting down, and I was just about to lose it. And then I remember this one student came up to me and she was just like, Mr. Lau, it's not that serious. You need to take a minute and come back to us after you calm down, but you just, you're losing your dang mind. And then she sat back down. And I was like, took that breath, and then there was this awkwardness because I didn't know if I didn't want to say anything and blow up at that moment. And then kids saw me just sitting there, and then they just started like shushing each other, which was really bizarre. And then after about 30 seconds, like it was just silent.
Man.
And it was about 20 seconds of this like awkward, like, what's he gonna say? What's gonna happen? Is he gonna blow up? What's he gonna do? And I came out of that after taking some breaths, and I said, okay, look, let me tell you what just happened. Let me tell you how I felt in that moment. And I was just being vulnerable with like where I was with them. And then we had a really nice like conversation about 5-10 minutes after that, just to refocus and reset. And then reset expectations, but for them to feel like this is why I was about to lose my mind, and to have a conversation with them about it. And so it was just it was a really good reminder of that. Everybody was kind of talking about how they like to de-escalate. A lot of people like take a deep breath, take a moment. And I just needed that from that student, a reminder that I need to do that in the moment.
That's good. So I'm curious because I have to ask, or it's gonna bother me all day. How did the class go after that? From that point on,
It was really good actually after that. I mean, it wasn't perfect, obviously, but I always tend to be pretty relational with my kids, so I don't tend to have a lot of those moments. But yeah, there was definitely a good response because I think part of that was I was able to share with them like why I was getting upset, right? And so they were able to hear from me. It wasn't just like you guys did this and you guys did this and this is why I reacted. It was more of like, this is how I felt because you weren't responding to me trying to get you back. And so that made me feel hated and disrespected. And then some other kids were like, well, then, this is what happened with this situation. So we just had a nice conversation about like how I could respond better, but also how they can see how I'm getting agitated and maybe they need to check themselves too. So it was just a good reflective moment.
It's really good. It's not in this presentation, but you just gave a very good example of an I versus you statement moment. So maybe one day in the future we can talk about that. But I versus you statements, they work. Your example is your story is a great example of that. All right, thank you for everyone for sharing. We're gonna move on with this. So, de-escalation techniques, as Jasmine said earlier, and everybody I heard it out there say too, active listening is super, super important. The power of listening. First, we wanna show empathy and listen to the students' concerns. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was at El Cerrito High last year. I promise you 50% of everything I heard, I did not wanna listen to and I did not care. But I did know in order to build a relationship, like she said earlier, to build that rapport, to make sure everything goes smooth for the rest of the year, I did have to listen about all their Twitter beef, all their Instagram drama, and all of that. So, show empathy and listen to the students' concerns. Number 2, validate their feelings by paraphrasing their own words. It could be any situation. Oh, I dropped my address and this girl's gonna come fight me and I have this, da-da-da. I'm hearing that someone's coming to your house to fight. I'd be mad too. Oh, Mr. Lenny, you're the best. You listen. I'm like, yeah, not my favorite conversation, but it does work when you validate their feelings. Give the student time to express themselves without interruption. That's hard. We only have so much time in the class, and there's a million other kids who actually do want to learn, so this part is tough, but I promise you, it's something that has to be done. If anything in these 3, give the student time to express everything without interrupting. And also, it's very important to maintain a calm and open body posture. And I forgot your name, but you were telling me about your story first with the kids in your class? Sorry.
That's right.
Okay. So
Yes.
I thought about your story when you talked about maintaining a calm and open body posture because how you present yourself with your body language is going to reflect on the kids and it's going to shoot off that energy to them and it's going to get them calm. You had a similar situation in your class too. It works. Maintaining a calm and open body posture is always a plus. Now, another technique, nonverbal cues. Using body language using body language to calm situations. See, I just transitioned over here. Very well. Keep a non-threatening stance with open palms and relaxed shoulders. No matter how heated we get as individuals, we got to remember, we got to mirror the attitude and behavior that we want our kids to. So we got to stand there like this. Oh, I understand. Yeah, Instagram. It's crazy. I'm listening. Very calm. Maintain, as you can tell, I dealt with a lot of Instagram last year. A lot of it. Maintain appropriate contact without staring.
Stare.
Yeah.
But not too much.
So like, for example, okay.
Blink, you bumpy
That's legit.
Sometimes you could, staring, it's hard to listen to some of these and not look at them like this. Are you serious right now? We talking about this? No, but it's nice to look at them like, oh, this is really interesting. Yeah, I'm just all about this drama right now. I can't wait to, kill some brain cells listening to it. Remember, use a calm and steady tone of voice. This can also be hard when we're frustrated, but it seems like everyone here is on the same page about taking deep breaths. So always remember to use a calm, steady tone of voice because there's a good chance that when the kid's in your grill, really yelling and going crazy, when you're calm, they're gonna start realizing like, oh, I'm being rude right now. Maybe I should tone it down too. Not all instances, but most of them. Reduce physical proximity if needed to avoid adding pressure. A lot of times kids are agitated, they're pacing. I don't know what they're about to do. So I always make sure I'm at least like an arm's length away just in case they throw one of these or something, I'm just not the culprit. So always maintain good posture, calm voice, good body distance, good body language, and it should help. Now, don't take my word for it. If something happens tomorrow and you use all this and the classroom still explodes, don't email me with hate emails, okay? I'm just trying to give you guys some tools that's helped me reach success in the past.
All right, so using nonverbal cues to manage disruption. So nonverbal cues like eye contact, gestures, or proximity can help manage disruptions without interrupting the lesson or drawing too much attention to the student. When a student is talking while you're giving instructions, you make eye contact and move closer to their desk. This nonverbal cue often reminds them to refocus without calling them out in front of class. So I think for my experience, students hated being called out in class. And even for myself when I was a student, if I wasn't doing something that if I was just like not on task, I just did not like to hear my name in front of everyone. It just made me nervous and it really would upset me. So practicing kind of just the nonverbal cues is really important. Just kind of like looking at them and kind of like indirectly letting them know that you know that they're not on task. And they'll kind of feel it, they'll sense it from you. Or even kind of walking, if you hear like a student is kind of just chit-chatting, you know, walk towards their direction, speak a little louder next to them so they kind of indirectly know like, okay, she knows that I'm talking and I probably shouldn't be talking right now. And kind of just, when you're teaching, it's really helpful to kind of stand up and walk around. So you are vigilant and you see what's going on. It can be hard. I definitely had moments where I'm teaching from my desk because it was just one of those days. But kind of getting up and really using that proximity, using the classroom, it can be really helpful. And just so they don't feel like they're being called down in front of everyone.
All right, another de-escalation technique, time and space. Giving students time and space, it's a big one. It's hard when we're navigating classrooms full of kids that are engaged, but first one, allow students time to cool down before discussing the issue. This is super, 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 super important. Last year, a lot of fights were about to happen. I was able to intervene, calm down. Principals were like, you need to go sit them down right now and talk to them right now. I was like, trust me, you don't want them to talk right now. I need them to go to class, take a deep breath, go home, play the game, eat a good dinner. 99% of the time, they're gonna come back to school calm, ready to talk. They usually find you first. So it's always important to give them time to cool down before discussing the issue. Number two, offer a cool down space or designate a quiet area in the classroom. Sometimes it's 10:15 in the morning. We don't have time to wait till the end of school because something might escalate. So offer them a cool down space. Hey, you wanna go take a walk? I noticed that your water bottle's empty. I noticed you need water in the first place. Go get some water. Any of that stuff works. Use a calming technique like deep breathing or ground exercises. Now, there's a million different techniques of deep breathing or ground exercises, so I won't go over any of those today, but I'm sure all you guys know one or two or both of these. So use a calming technique, it does work. Respect a student's need for privacy when their emotions run high. Teenagers, kids, adolescents, emotion clouds judgment 100% of the time. So this one's also important. Okay, all of these are important. I keep saying they're important. It's very important that we respect the student's need for privacy when emotions run high. There's a good chance that when they calm down, just like when they cooled off, they're gonna come talk to you about the problem, and then communication is the key to success. It'll be easier, I promise. Oh, you flipped that really fast. Okay. De-escalation technique, positive reinforcement and choices. Empowering students with choices. I don't know, okay, who in here by raise of hand loves choices? Right. And when we were kids, how many of us woke up, we're like, I'm not wearing that to school, but for some reason we're kids. We didn't have that power. My mom's like, wear this. I'm like, all right, no choices. So once I got roasted all day, and this is why I help the kids. It's not fun getting roasted, you know? I still have a beef with her about that. But anyways, that's for another day. All right, we wanna offer clear, simple choices to give students a sense of control. All right, look, I understand what you're going through. I hear you. What I really need from you to do right now, if you don't mind, I need you to take a walk or grab some water. That's it. We said it nice, we said it calm. As I said, it's not gonna work 100% of the time, but it can help 90% of the time. That other 10%, I don't know. Use positive reinforcement to encourage calm behavior. Positive reinforcement is always a good thing. You can have rapport with the kid, you cannot have rapport. Using positive reinforcement goes back to a couple slides before. Body language, tone, calmness, it's just like a big pot of gumbo. It all goes together and it's all flavorful. Frame choices as opportunities to resolve the situation peacefully. Now, how can we do that? We can do it a whole bunch of ways. Hey, you know what? I got an idea. How about we calm down? Maybe at lunchtime, we revisit this. We'll hit the snack drawer. Man, they're gonna come back, I promise. Kids are gonna start beefing in your class just to come back to have that calm talk for the snack drawer. There's no snack drawer here. I'll just keep pointing there. So frame choices, opportunities, it's gonna work. Gives you a lot of control. It gives them options. It gives them less time to go crazy because kids already go crazy with unstructured situations. So when their emotions are all over the place, same thing happens there.
All right, so positive reinforcement to redirect behavior. So encouraging positive behavior can redirect students without focusing on the negative. Praising a student for staying on task or acknowledging those following directions can subtly guide disruptive students back to appropriate behavior. So an example would be, I see that Rachel is ready to start her work. Thank you for being focused. This statement can encourage others to follow Rachel's example without directly addressing the disruptive student. So oftentimes we'll kind of notice that it's the same student being disruptive over and over. And I'm sure they're probably also very tired of being called out over and over. And they're probably experiencing all their classes as well. So just kind of recognizing the positive behaviors and things that you would like to see in your classroom. So I think it is also really helpful. So if you're acknowledging a student for being on task, or you're thanking students for doing as you asked, it encourages other students to want that praise as well. And I think also positive praises for students that are having hard days are usually the disruptive ones. Praising them for even the smallest tasks will go a long way. You'll find that sometimes simply kind of picking up their pencil or writing their name down on their work is like the hardest thing ever for them. But if you can really like acknowledge like, hey, I appreciate you being the first one to write your name on your paper, it kind of motivates them to be like, okay, you saw me, you saw the effort that I'm putting in. It'll make them want to do more work in class. So really acknowledging the good things about the students and not trying your best to avoid always the negative, because the students also internalize a lot and they kind of, it doesn't really make them want to do or want to make great choices in class.
And positive reinforcement is very important because positive reinforcement is not passive aggressiveness. A quick story. My guy over there, Mr. Frank, say hello to Mr. Frank, everyone. We were at a school, we're not gonna tell you the name or the teacher, but we were in a classroom and we were there to talk about bullying. And it was very, very clear that this teacher wanted us in her classroom full of 30 kids to talk to 2 kids. And at the end of the group, we were all in a circle because Mr. Frank put us in a circle to do some cool, the opposite of icebreakers, so we could all be on our way. And she thanked us for doing our thing. And she said, kids, now aren't you guys thankful that we have these lovely gentlemen here teaching us about this and that, so some of us can stop talking about people's mothers? And I was like, wow, that's definitely not positive reinforcement. So just make sure we know the difference, because, you know, we don't want to call out the kids, as Ms. Jasmine was saying earlier, in any way, shape, or form. Yes. Avoiding escalation triggers. So, didn't even know that was next. That's how I transitioned. What not to do. What that teacher did, please don't do that. Another thing not to do, avoid raising your voice or using sarcasm. Now, even though there are some kids we have rapport with and that's what we do, you'd be surprised how quick they'll turn on you when they're in a bad mood. So try to avoid using sarcasm or raising your voice. Maybe when the situation dies down and you run into them later, then make all the jokes you want. Number 2, don't challenge or confront students aggressively in front of their peers. I think everyone hit the nail on the head really well. We don't want to get into a power struggle. That's the compound word of the day, power struggle. We don't want to challenge kids. All that does is cloud their judgment with emotions even more, and now it's really going to go down in the classroom. Number 3, refrain from labeling or blaming the students for their emotions. It's the worst thing you can do. There's a million examples that are in my head right now, but I can't even pick one. But it's very important to refrain from labeling or blaming the students for their emotions, because we don't know what's going to happen. They might go into a deep depression. They might get more agitated. Your year might be over already, and you'll get stressed out faster. Number 4, avoid power struggles. We said it all day. This is the key. Instead, focus on collaboration. So instead of power struggling, how can we work with these students? How can we work with this individual that just will not stop being disruptive? That's what we got to ask ourselves and figure it out. Because focusing on collaboration might be 2 days in a row of silliness in the classroom until you figure it out, and then you'll have a smooth year. Power struggle can turn a student off to the teacher for the whole year right away, no turning back.
All right, another think, parent, share moment. I know we're kind of, how are you guys feeling? Okay, because I know we're kind of big on time, but are you guys okay to kind of do the think, pair, share, or would you guys want to skip it? How are you guys feeling? Good? Okay, perfect, awesome, wonderful. Okay, just want to gauge where you guys are at. Okay, think, pair, and share. What kind of disruptions occur in the classroom? What are some of the ways you deal with them? After discussion, we're going to share as a whole group. So go ahead and take 5 minutes, talk with your group, and then we will circle back.
Who would like to start? Yes.
I have a kid that burps for no reason for attention. It's a girl.
Oh, okay.
Just randomly just burps just to get the class going. She doesn't do it anymore. It's been about a week and a half, but I did have to like step out of the room with her by myself, and I'm like, I know why you're doing it. It's not gonna work. I was like, I need for you to stop. It's not even a real burp. You're just burping to get attention of everyone in the room. So she's not burping anymore, like, well, in my room.
In that classroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, serious.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Well, since I heard that, okay. So what did you do to have her stop that in your class?
Told her no.
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm.
Okay, sarcasm.
I summoned my inner Stitch,
Okay,
and I told her that Stitch was not pleased with this disruption.
there you
Like,
go.
no, I'm serious. I have Stitch emojis in my classroom. And I'm like, this is the mood I'm in now. I need you to put me back here. But right now, I'm here pulling my ears. I need you to stop.
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to call home
Because of burping.
because of burping.
Right.
So I need for you to stop.
Okay.
So she stopped for me, but she barking and growling in other places now.
Now it's time to have a little restorative chat with her about that. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Your mouth space large.
I see some people looking at me like they want to raise their hand. Okay, there we go.
I think for the most disruptions in my classroom are happening like start of class and in any transition. So just making sure that like expectations for those are clear, as well as the majority of students have something to be doing, so that if there are small things, small like fires, the other students are not just like sitting there bored and picking other things to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
so structure is very important in the classroom because any free time, whether it's a minute of freedom, they take it and run with it, right? So just having the best of your ability to fill in every second of, they say bell to bell teaching, and it's really hard, but you see that it is really important because kids cannot, unfortunately, handle freedom, and especially not in the classroom, because then they're going to get into whatever, especially transitioning from one thing to another. If they have to get up out of their seat to turn something in, it's like now you have people smacking each other in the head or like, trying to catch up from conversations. So I think also in the beginning of if you're saying like these situations are happening a lot in the classroom, I think what worked a lot for me when I was teaching, I taught for my 8th grade class. I started the class with music every single morning. And for each period, we created a playlist together, 10 minutes while they're unpacking. Well, it wouldn't take 10 minutes, depending on the day and what's going on that day. While they're unpacking, if the music is on, that is their time for them to talk, to do whatever they need to do because the music is playing, right? As long as they're unpacking their stuff, they're getting out what needs to be get out, whatever I have written on the board. Once that music stops, then they know that their voices also need to stop. And that was really helpful because they knew they had time to get out whatever, tea they found out during passing or whatever happened during that time. They had the time to just let it out. And oftentimes it did work for me. It was kind of like, it was hard in the beginning. I really had to like practice with them. Okay, music's on, talk, shut it off, quiet. So it was really kind of training them. And I think a lot of them, because they chose the music, they really enjoyed it. So it was kind of a fun thing for them as well. So that really helped me in the classroom.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing. We're going to move on now.
All right, so establishing clear expectations for behavior. So setting clear behavior expectations at the start of the year and consistently reinforcing them helps minimize disruptions. Students should understand what is expected of them and what the consequences are for not meeting those expectations. A teacher explains to the classroom rule is raise your hand to speak and wait for your turn. Regularly revisiting this rule and using visual reminders helps reinforce it. So making sure that we do have our clear expectations and that we are being consistent with them is also really important. And just also holding that our threats, they can't be empty threats. So if you're saying that you are going to do something, please make sure that you're always following with that consequence or whatever it is, because then if you don't, you lose value. So if you're telling a student, hey, I'm going to call home because of your behavior, and you never call home, and that happened to me a lot. They're like, oh, Ms. Hernandez, you said that 5 times and you never called home. So at that point, if I'm constantly telling them, it doesn't scare them anymore. It doesn't make them want to change their behavior in class because my consequence to them already lost its value. you. So it's very important that we are stern and strong in the beginning of the school year so they know, and constantly reiterate what the expectations are. Take 2-3 minutes of the class period to kind of revisit, this is our expectations of the day, this is, we're gonna follow them, and also holding everyone to the best of your ability to the same standard, because students will also feel like, hey, you let that person get away with this all the time. And it'll vary, right? Everyone's going through different stuff. So maybe asking someone to, raise their hand could be really, really challenging for one student, but for another student, they can easily follow expectations. And acknowledging that and having those open conversations with your students is also really helpful. All right, managing disruptions without interrupting the flow. So sometimes disruptions can be handled quickly without pausing the lesson or drawing attention to the behavior. Techniques like proximity control or quietly addressing the student can keep the class on track. So an example would be a teacher walks over to the student who is whispering to a friend, lightly taps their desk to get their attention, and continues teaching without stopping the lesson. So it kind of circles back to when we were talking about the nonverbal cues. Just simply standing next to a student, you hear that they're talking, and kind of just standing next to them kind of lets them know that you are aware that they're talking and it's not the moment for them to be talking. So it kind of, their conversation will slowly start to fade away, and then hopefully it will get them back to on track to listen to whatever lesson it is that is going on in the classroom. All right, so restorative conversations after a disruption. After a disruption, it's important to have a restorative conversation with the student to address the behavior and help them understand its impact. Focus on the behavior, not the student, and offer them a chance to reflect and take responsibility. An example, I noticed you were talking during the lesson and it made it hard for others to focus. Can you tell me what's going on and how we can fix this moving forward? So it's very important that we are having those conversations with our students and letting them know that the impact that it has on you as a teacher and as well as all the other students in the classroom. So if you are constantly redirecting a student, it takes away from learning time for other students. So letting that student know, hey, your behavior is doing this and it's causing an issue for the other students because now we have to pause a lot. Now I'm losing my train of thought. So now I'm lost and I have to, so it's a lot of things going on at once, and just being honest with the student and letting them know that that's how you're feeling, and more than likely the other students are feeling it as well. And if they're, whatever reason, are upset for your redirection, making sure that you are having that conversation so they really understand you as a teacher, and you can kind of mend that relationship moving forward. A lot of times we tend to kind of ignore students, or we kind of shut them out because we're just frustrated, and that's okay. Be in your feelings, kind of think about it, but definitely always go back to the student. And I've definitely had moments where I have to apologize to students because I kind of maybe snap at them, and letting them know, hey, I shouldn't have snapped at you, but the reason I got to that point was because X, Y, Z, and really letting them know your thought process and how you got to where you did. Using calm and neutral language. The words you use when addressing a disruption are crucial. Calm, neutral language keeps the student from escalating and focuses on the behavior rather than the student's character. Instead of saying, why are you always disruptive? Say, I noticed you were talking while I was giving instructions. Let's focus on what we're doing right now. So we really want to try and focus on the actual behavior itself and not the student and we don't want to kind of judge their character, but really focus on what it is they're doing, how we can help them moving forward. If talking is really an issue for them all the time, then have a one-on-one with them after and talk to them about, okay, so I see that, chatting during class is a struggle for you. What can I do to support you in that stance? What do you need from me as your teacher to help you so you don't feel like you constantly have to be talking over me or talking to your peers? Do you need a seat change? Do you need to go to the back? Whatever it is, but really kind of taking them into consideration. And when you're having that conversation, try not to take it so personal, be in your feelings, be very calm about it, because they will read into your frustration and they might feel like you just don't even want to help them or kind of shut down and be closed off.
And then right here, if you guys see the little, the I versus you statement, why are you always disruptive? As opposed to, I noticed you were talking while I was giving instructions. Let's focus on what we could do. It sounds warming. It sounds inviting. It sounds like a team. A lot of kids need that from adults because they don't get it at home. They don't get it at the after-school programs. So I versus you statements, very key to remember that. And our conclusion and final thoughts. So summing up de-escalation and classroom disruption. We learned today or spoke about De-escalation strategies are crucial for maintaining a positive and safe classroom environment. Recognizing early signs of tension helps prevent situations from worsening. Patience, empathy, and consistency are key to effective de-escalation, regardless of how boring the situation they're talking to you about is. Model and encourage self-regulation. Build a positive classroom culture and respond with calm, neutral language. Now, before we get out of here, I would like to first thank all you guys for your patience and for participating with us. This was a fun group. I heard a lot of good points. We might have to reach out to some of these folks afterwards. Number two, I know how tough it is in the classroom, so I really appreciate and I'm grateful for you guys, because without you guys, I don't know what would happen with the youth. We made all this sound super easy, like we could just get up and go do it, but I know all of us got challenging kids. I had a whole bunch of challenging kids last year. We know what that looks like, so we know it's hard, but hopefully a lot of the stuff we talked about in the tools gave you guys a little insight, and you can utilize your rapport with your kids and your classroom management and everything, maybe implement some of these, and the hopes is that wherever your year is at right now, it could just be a little bit better.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.